Krista right now.
Hi, I'm Krista. I'm the Vice President of Wiser. I want to thank you for joining us today for our first session in our Wiser Lunch and Learn webinar series. Today, we have a valuable presentation by Paul RIVAS titled How to Create a Great Course. We think that this topical presentation will help you grow your business and connect to more customers. Before we introduce Paul, I wanted to update you on a few upcoming Wiser happenings. On September 17th, which is coming really quickly, we'll be having our Wiser Fund a Scholar Trivia Night. This will be a fun event, and it's going to fund our Wiser Scholarship Program. You have an opportunity to attend. If the timing of the presentation or the trivia night doesn't work for you, you can sponsor, you can donate. This is a really important outreach opportunity for Wiser members, and so we hope that you'll sign up today. In October, we're going to have our second Lunch and Learn webinar series with Dr. Karen Francis. She'll be presenting on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The presentation is going to take place on October 16th, and Joey's going to be sending out information soon to sign up. Finally, we are offering advertising and sponsorship opportunities. We're really excited about this. You already received an email. Joey will be sending out a reminder, but it's a way to further promote your business and your service in our membership directory. And it's also a way to promote yourself through a variety of events. We hope you'll consider sponsoring with Wiser, and we have rates that start at $50, so there's a price point for everyone. Before I introduce Paul, I want to just remind everyone that the webinar is being recorded. Paul is going to answer questions at the end of the presentation. So feel free to put questions into the chat box as you think of them. And you can do that, or you could just answer live at the end. Our executive director, Joey, will moderate the whole presentation, and she will be looking at her chat box so you can send her messages if you have any questions or if you need assistance. All right, time for the presentation. We're really excited to have Paul RIVAS help us learn today. Paul RIVAS is on our board of directors at Wiser. He's a study skills specialist with Smith RIVAS, which teaches study skills and time management to help students with any diagnosis earn a better grade in less time. Their mission is to inspire students to do more than they think is possible, teach them how to accomplish it, and push them to achieve their greatest goals. Paul RIVAS is the creator of the online study skills course, Better Grades in Less Time, and the author of This Book Will Not Be on the Test. He also offers his 6-hour study skills course in person and via FaceTime, so families have an option to learn study skills from him at different price points. All right, now I'll hand it over to Paul.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for sharing my enthusiasm for online courses. This is something that I have been traveling the earth, teaching people one at a time ever since I started, probably since before I started making my own thing, because I was so interested in it. And it's fun to have rounded up several of you so I can just explain it once, which is really very much in the spirit of online courses, right? I've got the company mascot, Barry the study dog, on my lap here. If he gets up, don't be alarmed. It's normal. He loves helping with this kind of thing. Okay, so I was collecting from you some ideas about what you want to create. Krista had a kind of a test prep management course in mind. Eric mentioned creating something that he could share with families so that when they have follow-up questions, they can help themselves using the course rather than having to track him down to get one-on-one help over the phone or something. Does anyone else want to share what they have in mind to create? So that will kind of help me tailor the examples a little bit. If you want, go ahead and let me know. Florence. Hi, Florence. Oh, I can't quite hear you yet, Florence.
You have to unmute, Florence. There you go.
There we go. Okay, so I've already created a course, or actually I'm in the middle of creating it for families, mostly specifically seniors right now, but maybe we'll go lower than that to juniors, to apply to college. So it's a self-paced course that walks students and families through 8 modules, from researching schools to filling out the Common App, writing the essay, the supplemental work, financial assistance, etc. And students can choose one or all of the modules to do depending on what they need. So I'm kind of in the middle of doing it at the moment. So any advice that people have is great. We've got some students working on the first 2 or 3 modules so far. So we do have some kids using it now, which is fun.
Is it specific to art and such?
No, not at all.
Oh,
It's any student wanting to apply to college. I've been doing it with another college advisor who doesn't focus on the arts at all. We gave a lot of presentations this spring and summer for families, and basically we heard back that there were a lot of families that weren't getting enough advice from their high school college advisors, which kind of makes sense this year. And so we decided to put something together to help them.
Okay, what platform is it on?
We are going to put it on Thinkific. It's kind of halfway on Thinkific now. We had one stumbling block that has nothing to do with Thinkific. So yeah, that's right.
Corinne, how do you say that? Corinne. Yeah, you had what are you thinking about working on?
You're muted.
There we go.
There we go.
I am thinking I'm playing with a couple different things. I'm a clinical psychologist, and so I'm trying to potentially put together a course for some of my adolescent clients based on some evidence-based therapeutic models that they could kind of do in tandem with therapy.
Cool. Anyone else want to say what they have in mind for working on? You don't have to, but if you'd like to let me know ahead of time, I might be able to help you better.
Yeah, I'll share.
Go ahead, Kerry.
Yeah, I'm probably not surprising, but I would be interested in probably doing something with executive functioning.
Okay, cool. Okay, so the short story is that I was teaching study skills one-on-one, in person, and on FaceTime for several years, and until I managed to put out the book. So then once I had the book, I have this one option that is you read the book and solve your own problems, and it costs almost nothing. And I had this other option where I can teach you one-on-one, but it's going to cost way more. So I needed something else. So that was what prompted me to do this. And just so you know how I came up with all these suggestions, I actually watched several webinars put on by people who sell courses on how to make courses. I did not take one of those courses because they cost like $1,000 and up. But I scoured the earth to figure out how to do this, and I made a million stupid mistakes, and I have sorted all that out, and I have explained it here as simply as I possibly can, and I'm hoping that this will catapult you in the right direction to getting your course made efficiently and with a smile. So, all right, so here we go. If you're curious about what my online course looks like, you can find it on the dedicated website, SmithRivasOnlineCourses.com. All right, so ignore those beeps. Okay, so here's what I thought we should talk about. Give you a couple examples, help you kind of understand like what this could do for your business if you haven't thought that part through yet, and then a foolproof breakdown of the steps involved in doing this, a few caveats, and then of course lots of time for questions. I will get through items 1 through 4 for sure in the 1 hour limit. But I'm happy to stay and answer as many questions as you might have, as specific as they might be. So we have that to look forward to. All right. So, okay, so here's a couple examples here. That first one is mine. So that's better grades in less time. That's kind of an image I use for lots of stuff. And that is the name of my course. You can see that kind of in the vein of the course I told you about where they teach you how to make courses. You've got this practice of therapy thing where they teach therapists how to run their practice more efficiently, I imagine. This is just something I found in a half-second Google search. Chad, I learned that Chad has an online course introducing families to ADHD. It's free, this course. I assume it's not super substantial, but I don't know. I didn't dig into it, but also it didn't take me very long to find that they're offering a free course. So that's cool. And perhaps the most recognizable example of an online course in our education realm is the college essay guy, who has several courses, and his courses are famously pay what you want. And so I actually talked with his office when I was struggling with my online course, and they were super helpful. And so I am hoping to be even more helpful for you here. So why are you going to want to do this? It's like so much work. Okay. Why would you do this? Just get on with your life. Okay. Because it's fun. It's fun to make stuff. And it's fun to make stuff without having to leave your house these days, right? So you're going to make something that's fun, something you've never made before. You're going to be forced to learn how to use a bunch of crap you never used before. Like, you know, a stand that you put the microphone on that you attach to your desk, okay? That sounds like idiotically simple, but I have never done that before. And it turns out it is not as simple as you might think. This is gonna force you to improve, overhaul your existing services, okay? Right now, you, like I'm sure, think you're great, and you think you've got it all figured out, and you've solved every problem for people, and oh, this is gonna be a piece of cake. But when you try to translate it to this new format, you're gonna find that a bunch of things that you were accommodating for without realizing it by being friendly or by smiling or by being really patient, you're going to have to find a structural way to get those points across in your online course without you sitting there, right? Because one aspect of this online course is you might never meet the people who use it, right? You might meet some of them, and others of them you will never ever meet. So you got to kind of get it all in there one way or another. And this is fun. It's kind of like, it's like a required professional development, kind of. And it's gonna, when you do this, you're gonna think of even new ways that you could be helping people. And that's gonna be fun too. Because, you know, I was teaching basically the same 6-hour thing 99 million times. And while every student is different, and I'm giving 6 1-hour speeches over and over again. So it was fun to find new ways to present the material. And perhaps most importantly, if you own a small business, this gives you another option to help people and I'll give you some examples of that. So let's take a look at those examples here. Okay, so here you've got, at the top, you've got my in-person study skills course. This is where I drive to and from your house 6 times at rush hour or on the weekends. Okay, and then you've got a slightly lower priced option where we do it online on FaceTime or Zoom. And, you know, as of, I guess, a couple years-ish now, I've had the book out. The book costs between $22 and $30 on Amazon, depending on the day. Okay, so you see there is this vast chasm here between 30 bucks and, like, you know, roughly $2,000, right? So the online course, oh my gosh, what a no-brainer. So that now I can give this to people not only for $497, but I always have the option of giving it to them for less, whereas I do not necessarily have the option of going to people's house 6 times and charging them less, because it's a whole other structural issue, right? So no matter what your menu of services looks like, I'm betting that there is a spot below what you usually charge where an online course would look nice. So Okay, so so that part kind of is like super obvious, right? Like, oh, I should definitely have this. Otherwise, this way I can help more people, right? But the thing is, you also get this huge advantage where you not only can you help more people, and not only can they be in different places, but you get flexibility in working with people, perhaps like working with nonprofits or working with people who you really want to help. I mean, once you get the course made, any money coming through is great, and you always have the option of giving it to people for less than the stated price. For example, earlier this summer, I partnered with a nonprofit in California. This week, I'm working with the University of Maryland Talent Search. So with those students, I'm doing an abbreviated version of my usual 6-hour stuff, but I'm giving them free lifetime access to the online course and showing them how to use it while we are doing the study skills content. So I can now help 100 low-income people at no time cost to myself, and I can feel really good about giving them this 8-hour product that I know lots of other people are happy to pay good money for, right? So that has been really fun because that's something that's super important to me. Being a half Mexican from California with lots of Black cousins who have no money, it's always been super important to me to be able to help brown and Black people as much as possible and any other low-income people, but I've always been restricted by like how I can get to them and what I can do for them. Like, you know, I can only weather so many gigs where it actually costs me money to help people. So this has been a fantastic and unforeseen solution. This is not why I got into this, but I immediately found this great use for it that everybody is super happy with. So now a nonprofit can pay me a living wage for me to do the work, and I can give every kid this $500 product that they get to keep forever, and everyone is super happy. And another kind of unforeseen benefit is that you can give this away to people who have already paid you a bunch of money over the years. So let's say you help 2 siblings and they each paid you the individual rate, and now there's a third one coming along who is super motivated and wants to learn this stuff but doesn't need it beaten into them like the older siblings did. Well, guess what? I can happily give that family my online course as a token of client appreciation, and they can go do it, and that's fantastic. I can also kind of like what Eric said, I can give it to people who I've helped in the past. Like let's say, you know, in the spring here where everything fell apart, I felt kind of bad about the people who I was helping, and we finished in March or April, and then school falls off the map and they have no work to do. And it's like, what the heck did they just pay me to teach them how to do school for if there's no school to do? Well, I can give them the online course so that they can review everything we learned before this next school year, and that makes everybody happy. Yeah. And of course, there is some chance that you will make some money just by sitting there. And that is always fun too, where I get an email one morning, I wake up, I turn on my email and it says, somebody bought your online course. You don't even know who they are, but here's $500. Like, that's fun. Okay, so I sent out to you this to-do list. This is the to-do list that I actually use with my students. You'll see that it's the best to-do list ever because of the way it's set up. And I would encourage you to bust out your printed copy of this to-do list as we go through the 10 steps we're going to cover now about how to make an online course, right? So there are conveniently 10 steps. And so here we go. Okay, so you have to psych yourself up for this. You need a massive store of momentum, right? So remember, this is something you've taught a million times before. You're not reinventing the wheel. You can probably type it all out from memory, okay? You only have to make the stupid thing. You don't have to make it good. Don't try to make it good. Just like we tell students, don't try to write something good. Just write something and make it good later, okay? So Don't obsess over it being good, okay? It's gonna be fine. You're an expert. You've been in this business for however long. Of course it's gonna be good. Stop worrying about it, right? If you're obsessive, you can always make it better later on, and then that will make the users happy, right? I'll talk about one improvement I made to mine that I was super happy with that had not occurred to me like the first year that it was in existence, yeah? So on that to-do list, step 1, get motivated. Think about how many minutes, hours, or days you need to psych yourself up to do this thing. All right, so then, okay, now here is something that I did so stupidly for so long. Okay, this is a recurring theme here. You have to write the workbook before you can make the videos teaching people how to use the workbook. Okay, duh, all right? But it's worth repeating, okay? You can't have videos guiding people through the materials until you have the materials in front of you and they're super dope, okay? It's not gonna work. So write the stupid workbook and then you are off and running, okay? Now, here are some design suggestions for this workbook. You'll see that this page is actually from my workbook. And what are the elements here? Well, there's no instructions. These instructions are self-explanatory. All my instructions are limited to one line. There's a logo on every page. There's the website. There's contact information in an unobtrusive way. So that's what I suggest. Now, I happen to have a little bit of a background in designing materials. So for me, this was like a fun piece of cake. But if you've never done this before, just humor your user and make it look nice and put lots of space and don't complicate people. I mean, my instructions are literally one line on the page. One sentence, one line. Not a sentence that's 1.5 lines. One line instructions on each page. And then, crucially, you're gonna turn this into a PDF, and then please use whatever filter you have on your PDF thing and reduce the file size so that when you email the workbook to people or that when they download it, it is only 2 megabytes and not like 30, okay? And that goes for anything you ever email in PDF form too. There you go, bonus content. All right, so Florence mentioned a course that has 8 units. My course actually has 8 units as well. It doesn't matter how many units your course is going to have. Courses come in many shapes and sizes. Some people give away mini courses that are 1 unit, and then if you want like all 6, you can buy that or something. There's a zillion ways to do it. But basically, this is how I did it. Now, you don't have to do it this way. I promise you that some of the most famous courses were done with no on-camera video at all. Just voiceover narration on screenshots, okay? I mean, there's some famous examples of this, right? After obsessing for months and months and months about what the videos are gonna look like and what the budget was gonna be for this videos, I finally settled on one on-camera video to introduce each unit, and then however many videos necessary for the little subtopics within each unit, and those are done with voiceover recordings of nothing more than a screenshot of the workbook page, which I have an example of that. I'll show you that later. So it doesn't have to be fancy, okay? Now, mine's got 8 units, has a welcome unit, and then it has the 6 main units, and then it has kind of the recap, summary, and next steps unit here, right? So mine has welcome unit, 6 main units, and then next steps. And each unit has, let's say, 3 to 5 videos in it. My videos, I try to keep them as short as possible, so they range from like 2 minutes to maybe 6 minutes is the longest one, right? So my course has, I want to say, like 40 videos. The total video content is 2 hours and 20 minutes. Okay, so 2 hours and 20 minutes split up into 40 small pieces, right? Now, if you think, I can't make 40 videos, there's no way. Well, let me tell you about the guy who has the online LSAT prep course that has 1,000 videos of 15 to 20 minutes each that he had an AU kid chained to a computer making for God knows how long until he had it done. If you want to meet that guy, let me know. So if that dude can make a course with 1,000 videos, you can make one with 40 or 6 or whatever you think you need, right? So you can totally do it. Okay. So what's happened so far? So you wrote your workbook, and then you figure out how. So the workbook is everything you know that people need to know. And then you're going to kind of divide it up into manageable chunks so you don't freak anyone out. They have to watch a list of 20 videos at once, okay? Now you need to go buy one of these 2 screen recording softwares. Now, if you're like super duper tech savvy, you might look at my choices and scoff, okay? But this is what I have distilled down from the gobs of hours that I spent reading this stuff, okay? So I have a Mac, I bought ScreenFlow. I think it costs like $40. There's these prices of these things vary wildly, so shop around and find one for cheap. Now, what is this? Do you need this to make screen recordings? No, I don't think you do. But this thing is basically like a poor man's video editing software. And if you wanted, you can make a whole feature film on ScreenFlow or Camtasia. It has more than you would ever need. But more importantly, it has a few things that you will be super glad to have, one of which is really fun that I'll show you. And keep in mind that I didn't think any of this stuff up. I have just collected advice from a million sources and put it into this form that makes it easy for you to act on. All right, then you need, so don't buy this stuff until you are equipped to record things, okay, right? Don't be stupid. Get the recording software, then buy the next thing. You see that the money you're spending here is laid out so that you can pull off at any time with minimal expense, okay? So what do you do next? You get this combination of stuff, and this is literally the very same things that I have right here, okay? So this microphone plugs into the back of your computer. It sits in this thing so it doesn't shake. This is so you don't get that annoying sound when you make plosive sounds like, right? And this thing, you attach it to your desk and you put it somewhere where you can talk into it, but where it's not super obstructive of the view, yeah? If you've ever watched a video with bad sound, you know how important it is to spend this $125 so that it sounds good. And my videos sound freaking awesome and way better than I sound. So I'm quite happy with that. And this is a small expense to make it a pleasurable experience for people. Because the minute it sounds bad, they're going to not want to continue. All right. So now this is more trouble than it looks like. This shot here is an example of what a pain in the butt it is to set up lighting and sound. This is actually not from my online course. This is from a series of videos on kind of how to get psyched about college that a friend and I made, okay? So if this image looks acceptable to you, great. Consider that over here on the wall over my left shoulder on the wall is a small painting of a pear. Down here in this corner is a big, ugly file rack, okay, that you can't see. There is crap, wall-to-wall crap everywhere in this room except what you can see on here. There's a light over here on a bookshelf. There's another light over here. The camera's back over here. There are actually 2 cameras. There's this camera and there's this camera. There's my friend sitting over here tapping his feet, giving them the cues for when to talk. And then there's like my discarded dirty clothes from the first run we did where I ended up dripping in sweat and all that, right? So what you can't see is that the air conditioning is turned down super low here so that I don't look like I'm running from the cops or something. And the audio and the microphone and the lights and the time, everything has to be like reasonable. So you're gonna wanna like, before I recorded my videos, I kept an eye on the light coming through this room for a few days to see when it was lightest, right? Because basically you're gonna do this at the lightest time of day in your house You're gonna bring in every light you have in your house. You're gonna haul in every light and you're gonna point them all at yourself. Unless you already have something better than that, in which case ignore this step, right? But there's a lot of considerations. When I was doing my videos for the online course, I noticed that my first couple choices for shirts did not really show up well on the camera. So I've got all these shirts, but only one of them is really suitable for filming like this in the online course. You'll see that shirt later. Okay, so here you've got, this is what one of my online course videos look like. Here I am teaching people how to use this to-do list, okay? Now take a look at these super fun things here. So for one, we've got closed captions, which we'll talk about later. For two, we've got the cursor replaced with a picture of my smiling face. Now, who would not be psyched up to learn study skills with my head bouncing around and me talking at you like this? I mean, that's super fun, right? So here's how I suggest you record these videos. You will pass out if you try to do more than a couple hours in a day. This one that I did here, we actually did like two-hour sets with a lunch break in between. The first 2-hour set, we threw it out because it sucked. But by this point, I had way more experience making these videos, okay? When I was recording these videos, like 2 hours a day, you're falling out of the chair after that. So no more than 2 hours a day. And you want to do it like boom, 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 boom every day. Once you get into the zone, you just want to crank them out here, right? So here's what you do. You take you put the screenshot of the workbook page on a black background. I mean, you can do fancier things than this, right? But we're going for the simple version here. So this is super simple, right? Now the face is to account for the fact that you can't see me on there and it's moving around. So even though this page is static, you got the face moving around, you've got the closed captions going by. So there's a little bit of movement to try to keep people from getting too bored, right? Now, unless you have crippling stage fright, don't mess around with a script and commit to not editing your videos, okay? Editing the videos is how you get sucked in and never finish, okay? I thought that I needed a script based on the 5 chapters in my book that deal with how to get better grades in less time. I thought I needed this, and those chapters are also based on what I teach to my students. Like I practically wrote it from memory, but when you read it in a book, it's not the same as getting it on the video. So I'm like, oh, well, I need to write a script that supplants these 30 pages of text. Dude, okay, like that's not gonna work. Don't write the script, okay? You don't need a script. Just smile and say the stuff. Now, here is something I did not learn until I made those college videos that I showed you, okay? Whoops. It is super helpful to have an audience. Your audience can be Barry the study dog if you want, but here's what happens when you don't have an audience. You go like this, and you get psyched up, and you talk into the thing, and you have to keep your momentum up, and the minute you hesitate, you say something stupid and say, oh shit, and then you have to delete that video. Right? So there'd be times when I get it on one try, and there'd be times when I would like talk myself into a corner and get 4 minutes into a 5-minute video and then say something idiotic and then have to scrap it, okay? You can't do that if you have an audience member, because if you have someone sitting there, you're talking with a real person, and in real life, you don't get to just like stop in the middle and start over like a video game, right? Like you have to, there's some give and take. So you will save yourself a lot of time on, you'll save yourself a lot of takes on making the videos if you have one audience member there to kind of encourage you to keep talking and not obsess over your silly mistakes, right? And then if you make a silly mistake, who cares? No one cares. It just shows that you're human, right? So once you make those videos, you're gonna name them with the same name as the workbook page to which they correspond. So then everything's going to be in a nice pile and you're not going to have to go sifting through. And nothing is more painful than having to watch one of your own videos to remind yourself of what the heck you said. And you're like, oh man, I look stupid. He's going to buy this, right? You're trying to minimize that. Yeah? Okay. So then what? Now you're gonna, okay, so this is the screenshot stuff, right? Because remember at the beginning I said, the first video in each unit is you on the camera getting people psyched. And the remaining videos is the main content of the course doing the workbook pages. So you're gonna make the voiceover screenshot videos first. So you don't even have to be on the camera. You don't have to be wearing your one colorful shirt, okay? You're just gonna shout into the microphone and try to get it right, okay? So, and this you could do, this is obviously not contingent on the lighting in your room or the temperature on your house, okay? And then once you get that done, now you're gonna record the on-camera videos. So this was something I accidentally did correctly, which was figure out that in order to do the intro to the unit, you kind of have to see what you talked about in that unit before you can write a good, cogent introduction, right? So after you make all the videos for each unit, you figure out what the heck you said, and then you figure out, most importantly, the things you forgot to say, and then you shove all those into the intro on-camera thing, intro on-camera videos, yeah? So in mine, I had 8 units, and I think I made these 8, and these videos are a little shorter, 2-3 minutes a piece, okay? I got all these done in like an hour, okay? And this is, I'd say, the fun part, because you're almost done at this point in terms of creating the content, and it's fun to get people excited about all those videos that you just made in obscurity in your home office, okay? So look at the camera so that people feel like they're being talked to. And here you'll see, this is an on-camera video that I made. This is from my online course. Here you'll see I'm in my palatial imitation home office. I've got my grandma's typewriter. I've got, this book will not be on the test. And somewhat annoyingly, you can see the microphone here, but I watched enough online courses that seeing the microphone is a very small price to pay for having good sound. And really, no one cares, right? I mean, you can nitpick my appearance and setup here till the cows come home, okay? No one cares, right? Just make the stuff. Remember, you're trying to not do any editing because that's what takes forever, and you don't need a script, okay? You start writing a script, you'll never get it done, yeah? All right, so then what? Okay, then once you get all the videos made and they're finished, then you're gonna send them to Rev and have them add closed captions. Now, if you have never done this before, let me tell you how awesome it is. They get these things back to you like in a day max. Okay, you could get these, you could go take a shower and you would get half the videos back by the time you were out. Okay, this is freaking awesome. All right. There are cheaper options, but they're not as accurate, okay? Now, what I didn't do that I would suggest you do is request that they all be done by the same person. Because if you get two people who have 2 different ideas of how to spell the word all right, then and you're as persnickety as I am, you're gonna have to edit the word all right a bunch of times, right? You can also avoid that hassle by giving them up front a vocab list, right? Like I used to be a professional translator in Argentina, and for really specific jobs, they would hand us, look, here's these 50 words you've never seen before, here is what we want you to use for these 50 words. You can give them that list. So like if I say study skills 99 times, I want it written a certain way, and I can tell them that ahead of time. Right? Now, as awesome as all of this is, it's still probably going to require editing unless you are super zen and don't care about small mistakes, because there's pacing issues. There's like, basically the more orientation you give them ahead of time to make sure they use the right words with the right spelling, the less editing you're going to have to do. I didn't anticipate that because everything I read was like, oh, these people are super accurate. And they were. But still, I found there were things that I wanted to change, like capitalization of some things, because they don't see the whole context. They're just doing a 4-minute video. They don't know that this thing is 1 of 40 and where it lives in the menu and all that stuff, right? But the thing with this closed captions is that it did not occur to me for like a year to include closed captions, okay? I don't know why. I guess why, because when you think of accessibility, the people who need accessibility always have it way more figured out than you have it. And they always have a zillion ways of getting around your oversight, your lack of forethought in terms of making things accessible, right? So I didn't give it much thought. But then it occurred to me that somebody hit me to the fact that lots of people like reading the text on the video, even if they can hear. Like if they're learning study skills in the bar and they can't play the sound of the study skills videos, they can watch the videos and read the closed captions. And I don't know, that did not occur to me. So as soon as that kind of dawned on me, I'm like, oh, how dumb am I? Let me go make these. And I ran to make these closed captions, right? So at $1.25 a minute, when I did it, I think this is like marginally cheaper, but so what? I have 140 minutes of video, so that's $175 to close caption all of my 40 videos in my course, right? And they get it back like in a day. I mean, that's pretty cool. All right, so step 10. Okay, this is what you are postponing doing until you have all this other stuff done. You're going to choose an online course platform. That's why at the beginning I asked Florence what platform she's using, and she's going to use Thinkific. Okay, fine. So let me tell you a little bit about how these work. Udemy, do you know what that is? Okay, so Udemy is like this massive collection of online courses. Now, the problem with Udemy for people like you and you and me, is that the courses they're too cheap. Okay, it's not worth. The courses cost like $10 or $50 or something, and they're meant for mass consumption, like global scale consumption. And the things that you see on here, you see a lot of videos about how to make videos on Udemy, right? So I would say that none of you is going to use Udemy. That's my wild guess, unless you're teaching something that is really that you want the whole world to do and pay $10 for, and then you get some percentage of that $10. Like, it's just not. People are going to say to you, "Oh, you should put it on Udemy." No, you shouldn't. Those people don't know what they're talking about. Okay. All right. LearnDash is a WordPress plugin. If you don't know what that is, ignore, then it's not for you. Don't worry about it. I looked into this fairly thoroughly because I have a WordPress website. So this would basically allow you to host the online course on your existing website and not pay one of these jokers up here a bunch of money to host it for you, okay? The problem is that WordPress plugins break frequently and mess things up. And another problem is that hosting video is a massive hassle that you're just not going to want to deal with. Okay, so the great risk here is you host the course on your own website and it crashes your website forever, and then you're out of business for months until you pay a bunch of money to have someone fix it. Okay, the LearnDash is used by like colleges, corporate places, big places where the only people who are going to use it are in that little universe, and they've got an army of IT people. Okay, so almost certainly you're going to choose between one of these, Kajabi, Teachable, and Thinkific. Now, I'm going to say this 20 times. Once you get to this stage, you're going to read this article down here. No articles but this one. You're going to read this article, and then you are gonna suck it up and decide within 24 hours which of these 3 options you're gonna use, okay? I was stuck on this stage for like 6 months, and that was when I called the college essay guy, and they said, we use Kajabi. And I was like, boom, that's good enough for me. You're the most recognizable online course in the country. We're in the same education racket, done, Kajabi, okay? But a lot of the things that they like Kajabi for, I don't use Kajabi for, such as it also being able to send like marketing emails. Like I use MailChimp for that. So a lot of the benefits of Kajabi are kind of like escaping me, but having looked at it, so I use Kajabi, Florence is using Thinkific, another person I know in the area is using Teachable, whatever, it's not gonna matter. Read this article, no other articles, read this one, and then decide which of these things is good for you. And there are considerable price differences, right? Like this $119 a month, like that's for Kajabi. So I just paid my year's worth of Kajabi dues, and it was like $1,200 or something. My online course costs $497, remember? So if I sell 3 of those in a year, then I made a little money. So there's a million comparison articles, okay? Like when I was preparing this presentation, I probably read 10 of them all over again. I had already read them 5 times each a couple years ago. I read them all again. I found this one, just read this one and pick one, right? Don't obsess over this for 6 months like I did. Okay, so now we get to, I told you this was a 10-step process, but of course this one goes to 11. And here, oh, we're not there yet. I forgot about this. So let me remind you of all the things I did foolishly, okay? I toyed with I talked to a video guy and he's like, well, you know, what you want is you on the stage in a lecture hall in a university with a live cherry-picked audience of 6 frat bros and 3 cameras, and all of that would cost you X $1,000 for a half a day. And I was like, it's not gonna work for me. Nobody cares what you look like, okay? They don't care. If you care that much, then don't do on-camera videos, just do voiceover, okay? Nobody cares what you sound like. They don't, okay? Mostly, my roadblocks came with obsessing over the technology, right? Like, I'm telling you that I bought that microphone combination, okay? That thing sat on my shelf, I swear to you, for 6 months before I could bring myself to haul it out of the box and attach it to the dang table, okay? Like, it's just absurd, right? And as you've seen, hopefully here, you don't have to spend a lot of money on this, right? How much money are we spending? We spent $40 for the screen recording. We spent $125 for the microphone setup, and we spent $175 on closed captioning if your thing has 40 videos, which it might not. So that's only a few $100 before you get to the real investment of paying for the platform that's gonna house this thing. Now, the beauty of the platform is that all of these 40 videos live on Kajabi, okay? The beauty of the platform is that they have already set up all the pain in the butt things that you wouldn't think, like, oh, what happens if a user does this? What happens if it does this? How do I make it look nice on the page? All of that is handled, right? So I really don't think you're gonna use LearnDash here. Okay, so these are all things that I, like, you know, spend a lot of money. Like, for a second there, I was toying with the idea of paying $1,000 to somebody to take an online course on how to make online courses. But instead of doing that, I decided to study their promotional webinar and copy down every single slide and just go off of that. And that has totally worked, right? Now, and so what I'm trying to do here is give you the $20 version of the $1,000 version that I'm assuring you don't need, yeah? Okay, so now, step 11, because of course this one goes to 11. This is where you are getting ready to do the real work, believe it or not, right? All the other stuff we talked about is child's play compared to step 11. And step 11 is when you have all the stuff done, you paid for Teachable, and now you're gonna put your stuff in the right spot in your course, okay? You're gonna decide what pictures you wanna use for what unit. You're gonna decide what the language is gonna be on the page introducing people to your course. Like mine is SmithRivasOnlineCourses.com, right? How did all that text get there? Well, I had to write it, right? So you're gonna have a checkout page. Then you're gonna make a webinar to introduce your course. And if you wanna see what my webinar looks like, you can find that on my YouTube channel. There's a webinar launching Better Grades in Less Time. So dig that up on the Smith Rivas YouTube channel and watch it. It's about 40 minutes. And, you know, I copied that format from other things. Copy that format if you want, right? Then there's going to be like automated emails about what happens when people sign up and stuff. Okay. Basically, there's going to be a billion little bells and whistles that you can have fun with or ignore, but don't let them overwhelm you. Right? If you find it overwhelming, ignore that step. You can always fix it later. For example, I got an email from Kajabi 3 weeks ago saying, hey, remember those terms and conditions on your website, on your online course website that were generic that we slapped in there? Well, those are woefully insufficient. We suggest using this website to create terms and conditions that are specific to your product. And I'm like, great, that sounds super boring, but that sounds necessary. So let me put that on the calendar for like a couple weeks from now. So I'm gonna work on that in a couple weeks. But you don't have to have it perfect, and in fact, it never will be perfect, right? No book is ever done, no course is ever perfect. But even if you don't have a temporary crappy version, you can't sell it to people. Unless you are super motivated by deadline pressure and you sell it to people before you have it made. Some people do that. That wasn't necessary for me because I already knew what I wanted to make. So yeah. Okay, so let's hear what your questions, comments, concerns, beefs are with this stuff. Remember, we've got all the time in the world here. So I will answer every question. So go ahead and holler. It can be stuff specific to your course that you have in mind. It can be like further explaining anything, whatever. Don't be shy. I want you to leave here today super fired up and righteously motivated about how to do this efficiently. So how can I help you? Florence.
Do you did you go down the route of using like early adopters or beta testers or something like that, like early clients to give you some feedback?
Yes. Well, so yeah, great question. So yes, I did. Now the stuff that I'm teaching, I have been teaching to great effect for several years. So I know this stuff works, but I obviously had a little anxiety about, is it gonna fly in this format? So I had one trusted parent, a super well-connected educational advocate parent with a reasonably motivated rising ninth grader. And I said, make your kid do this and let me know how it turns out. And so I went over to their house. They're a neighbor of mine. So I live in Capitol Hill, by the way. I went over to their house. I explained it to the girl. Here's what it is. Here's what you're gonna do. Let me know how your life turns out. And then, a few weeks later, I see the guy at a work thing and I'm like, okay, just tell me, does it suck? Does it suck? Does it work? He's like, no, it works. It's awesome. You're good. I was like, sweet. So that's what I did.
So do you have testimonials and stuff? I mean, I could look at your webpage, I guess, before asking this.
No, for the online course, no. I mean, I've got gobs of testimonials from various things, right? Some on my
Right.
website, some on Google reviews, some on the book reviews on Amazon. Thank you, Carrie. But no, like I don't have online course testimonials posted. The one that is posted as a placeholder is from Barry the Study Dog.
Right. Do you use a landing page?
Yeah, and perhaps not like what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that main website there, Smith Rivas Online Courses, that kind of explains it. And then if you click like learn how or get more info, you'll get a page that looks like that one, but has all the details.
Right.
And then there's a checkout page, and that's it.
And you do that all through Kajabi?
Yeah.
Not.
Now the thing here's, I'll put in the chat box. So the landing page, I made a half-assed landing page on my main website because I thought, oh, I need a landing page. So I made one, but I never use it. Okay, this is the landing page I made in like 5 minutes. Kajabi has options for landing. It has options for everything you could possibly want to do, but I didn't see that as necessary. So my online course thing is basically 3 pages, right? General info, specifics, and checkout page. And then you pay, that people get 2 emails, and that leads them to the place on the internet where the online course lives, and they log in and they go do it. There's a question from Sumaya. How do you decide what to share without cutting into your own business? Well, I'm sharing, how did I decide? Well, I'm sharing everything. I put it all in there, right? So, instead of $2,000, people can have it for $500. So I put it all in there. And I mean, I already wrote the book. It's all in the book too, right? Any enterprising person could read the book and start a competing study skills business tomorrow. It's all in there. And that was important to me. It's important to me to help more than the people who live in castles who pay $3.75 an hour for me to go to their house, right? So if the whole world copied this and started a study skills business, then the world would be a better place, and I could live with that. So I long ago gave up the idea of like hoarding my best materials. So it's all in there. In fact, my online course has way more than my one-on-one 6-hour option has, because it has everything that I can't get done in 6 hours with a kid, right? So all the deliberate reflection and forethought and tracking this stuff and long-term planning, things that we can't get to in 6 hours, it's all in the online course. So it's actually a way more robust version of what I offer. But it's also obviously not going to work for everybody. Like, it won't work if the kid is not going to sit down and do it, right? What other questions? I can't see everybody's picture. So if you're waving your hand and I can't see you, go ahead and type your question in the box. Perhaps you have questions about the specific thing that you have in mind and how you might set this up. Okay, so Sumaya is saying, again, share everything with everyone, but I've heard not to do that. Well, remember, they're paying for this, right? This isn't free. This is $497, I proudly provide most of my materials free on my website anytime for people to use, right? So you can see on my website, the free stuff is on this page, the motivation page. So I share a bunch of free stuff. Now, there are 1 or 2 things that I have created that I believe are the best of their kind, and I don't give those away except in Spanish. I give those away in Spanish, but not in English. And you'd have to really dig to find it, and you'd have to speak Spanish. And then you'd have to pay somebody 10 cents a word to translate it for you. So I'm not too worried about that. But really it's like, you know, material, a to-do list. Okay, so what if I think I have the best to-do list ever? There's a million people with to-do lists, right? So it's more about how you deliver the stuff. So, and this is something I learned like teaching English in Argentina. Like the first company I worked for, they're like, we don't care if people copy what we're doing because it's never gonna come out as good as we do it, because it's not just in the content, it's in the delivery. And I heard that in the year 2006 and I was convinced. So since then I try to give away as much as I can because I have to sleep well at night. And there's always gonna be people who would rather pay you $2 grand than 500 bucks. That's fine. But I have to go to bed knowing I'm doing everything I can for people study skills wise. Yeah, Florence?
Do you worry, or do you try and prevent or anything like that people from, you know, like, you know, John buys the course and then gives his login and everything information to, you know, his best friend Susan, Susan's kids to use, or do you just not like think about it? Or
I mean, you know, so the terms and conditions says you can't do that, but do I police that? No. But you know, I can track what everybody, their progress in the course, right? The platform tells me exactly what unit everyone is on at what time. And so if the day came that I was worried about that, I would go in, I would look at that and I'd be like, oh, that's weird. Like you did nothing for 3 years and now you're starting over. Like either you're in grad school now or what's going on, right? So I'm not super worried about that. Like I generally give it to like a family. Like I'd probably, if a family were to buy it, you know, I don't need 497 times 2 if there's 2 kids, right? Like, but because it tracks your progress, it's going to be a little confusing to do it. It might be better for each kid to have their own, right? And in that case, they'd pay me once and I'd give one kid access and then I would give the other kid access free so they could each have their own, right? But study skills is such a fringe thing. I mean, when I moved here, there was literally nobody dedicated to teaching only study skills. And I have had big tutoring companies in this country tell me there is nobody dedicated teaching only study skills. And all that tells you is that the world is not hip to study skills. So there are things that people are gonna steal and copy and share way before they're gonna steal and copy and share an online study skills course, right? And if they did, then great, more people would be helped, that's fine. Krista?
Yeah, just in terms of the organization of the course, so people go linearly through the course chronologically as recommended, or can they jump around?
They can totally jump around. You can set that up however you want. The answer is whatever you want them to do. You can do what's called drip content, D-R-I-P, where you only give them access to the new unit like at certain points in the cycle. Like, oh, you only get one unit this week, and you only get the next one when you finish or whatever. Mine's not set up that way. Mine is you pay the $4.97, you get it all right there, and it keeps track of which ones you've done, but there's nothing preventing you from doing it in a dumb order. Like my stuff is meant to be done in the right order, and I think that's obvious when you see that the things are numbered, and they build on each other. But that's the order I always teach that stuff in. But the short answer is you can tailor the design far more ways than you could possibly imagine. Yeah.
And again, I could research this, but might as well just ask you. You have the workbook pages that you've designed as the backdrop, but something I would be interested in doing is showing other resources or websites or SAT score calculators or things that are out there. So if I wanted to go to somebody's website and show them a good calculator, I'd assume that person would be happy that I'm advertising their website, but I don't know how much I need to research what I do in a screenshot versus, you know what I mean? So I could be showing them web resources, but do I need to be asking for permission or? No. Okay.
No, because everything on the internet's already free, right?
Right.
I find it really endearing, and and it always cracks me up when people, as a college counselor the other day asked me if it would be okay if they linked to my book on their client page of their website. And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much. It'd be great if more people read this, obscure cult classic of a book that I wrote, right? So no, like if you're showing people how to use the, let's see, you're showing people how to use that studyabroad.com or something, right? Here's where you can look for study abroad programs. It works like this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's fine. I have one piece of semi-copyrighted content in my online course that I ran through a wall to get permission to use. So there's one thing in my materials that I use. It's an article I read years ago. And I happen to have, for years now, I've been in touch with the author because I use it so much. And I went to him and I said, hey, can I put this in my online course? He's like, knock yourself out, but I don't have the rights anymore. The rights belong to this place. So then I go look at that place and they're like, we shut down. So then I go look at a third place and I say, hey, can I put this in my online course? And then they're like, okay, we'll look into it. And they got back to me like a month later and they're like, we don't have the rights to this. So nobody has the rights to this. Nobody who is reachable has the rights to this thing. So I put it in there and I said, use with permission from the author. But if you're just using websites and showing people websites, like, nah, I wouldn't even bother.
Okay.
Yeah, because I wouldn't give it a second thought.
Yeah, I mean, I go to the College Panda. I say he's got good workbooks, but I really like his score curves and calculator. And then I go to Erica Meltzer and say, I just would be describing materials for different people, but I'm advertising their materials. So
yeah, great. And then they would probably be you probably let them know after the fact, and they'd be stoked, right? Like, if you wanted to, if you thought that wouldn't complicate things. What else are you wondering? So that's a good question. So anything you're thinking you might research later, just shout it out now, and I'll give you my best answer here.
I'll just ask Candace or Kelly, do you guys have any questions?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you. It's been a great talk. Everything's really good. Thanks.
Good.
Appreciate it.
I'm happy to continue this conversation whenever you have more questions, right? So don't be shy. I think it would help everybody if more people had online courses, so then prospective users could have a little more context for this stuff, right? Like right now, there's not very many of things that are functioning in this area. And so people maybe don't know what to make of it. So I have to explain it to people. But if everybody had an online course and it was a standard option that people knew existed, I think that would make it lots easier for people to excitedly start using that. So I'm super interested in talking with you as much as you want about how to make your course. So don't be shy about that. Okay, so Sumaya said she made a free ebook. Yeah, you don't need a workbook. It depends. What are you teaching, Sumaya? Like, what's the tenor of the workbook? Like, what are you trying to help people with? I have never done a free ebook, but okay, so it's on making essays. Yeah, so do you need a workbook? No, you don't need anything, right? The reason I have a workbook is that I'm trying to beat into students these healthy habits, and I need them to do it, to practice them mindfully. So I'm doing that so that it's going to get them to where I want them to be when they're done with the course. But the way your thing is set up, that might not be necessary. But then I would ask, if you have an ebook already that's free, there's a million software tools where somebody can get someone to read that ebook to them. They don't need you to read it to them. The online course, so it depends what, if you want people to pay for it, or if you just want people to have a different way of consuming your free thing. You know, there are certainly free mini courses online, right? So it depends on like how much they're paying, what you want the outcome to be, and whether it has to be sufficiently different from what you already have in order to keep the paying customers happy. Right, so Sumaya's commenting that she could make additional pages that would be like more workbooky, and then put them in so that as they go through the process. That seems good to me, right? Like, so the advantage, okay, you don't need a workbook, you can just tell people to do stuff, but then they're going to do it in their own janky way, on their own janky materials. And my materials are set up to facilitate progress. So my materials are better than anything the kid is going to think up on his own. So I want them to use mine. But if it's just write this, write that, I mean, you know, maybe they don't need a page with 8 lines on it to write if they're going to type it anyways, right? But I'm insistent that I want people doing my thing with pencil and paper. So that's my reasoning. Yeah, you definitely don't want to start from scratch, Sumaya, right? Like, don't start from scratch. Start with what you have, figure out what would make it way better. The beauty of the online course is just like the beauty of the internet, where there's no space limits, right? You can put every single thing in there if you want to, yeah? There's no space limits. So, you know, don't hold back. Throw in everything that you think will help people. That's not going to distract them from the main thrust of what you're trying to accomplish, right? Any last questions?
Well, if you, I know Paul would be open to, you know, if you have follow-up questions, to email him. Of course, he's listed on the Wiser website under his membership profile for his contact information. But thank you, Paul. This was really, really great. And
Thank you. Yeah, so
like everybody's asking good questions. So.
Yeah. So I put my email in the chat box. If you want to get a hold of me later, we can talk more when you're ready. No hurry, right? Could be in a week, could be in a year. My course has been finished for, I don't know, a year? I finished, so I put like, I launched it in the fall. So I had it finished in like July a year ago. So it's been up and running for a year. At that point, I had already paid for like a year of Kajabi, I think. So I've just paid for my 3rd year of Kajabi. The course has been running for a year, and I'm quite happy with the progress. So as I say in other places, it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple, as in not complicated. It's simple. I try to make it as simple as possible. So keep that in mind and go do it.